All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to session one of the Balance Gymnast program. I cannot believe it's here. I can't believe it's October. It's almost November. And I am so incredibly excited that you guys have made the commitment to learn how to fuel your gymnasts, to help them have one of their best comp seasons yet, or one of their best injury comebacks yet. And I'm really excited about everything we're going to chat about over the next, 12 weeks together. Some of you have met the team. If you did our preseason challenge, I had our team join me live on night 2 so you could see their beautiful faces. If not, I wanted to introduce them quickly to you because you all will be working with them if you're doing one-on-one. Megan Robinson, she is my expert, board certified sports dietitian. She's also a diabetes educator. She was a former gymnast, level 9, 10. She is now a marathoner and a run coach. She lives in Pennsylvania. She works part-time for Children's Hospital of Philadelphia in pediatric endocrinology. So she's super smart. And then she works part-time for us. So she's really great with my level 9s and 10s. She's great with my younger gymnasts. You all will adore her. And so that's Megan. Melissa has been with me the longest. She is in Boise, Idaho. She is the mom of 2 girlies, one of which is a level 6 gymnast, and the other one, which she lets me share this, has autism and ADHD. So she definitely can relate to parents in that way. She is super busy. She just defended her doctoral dissertation. So she's soon to be Dr. Willinga. She works full-time for a company that makes nutrition support. So if people need like IV fluids or have to be tube fed, she took a job with them in the last year. She's super smart. So she's like a medical science liaison, but she actually got her start in sports nutrition. And so she loves working for us part-time because it keeps that part of her brain alive. Ryan is my newest dietitian, but she's not new in the sense of she's actually been a dietitian longer than I have. She joined us early in the spring, the winter. She's the mom of 2 littles. She was a level 10 gymnast. She finished at First State Gymnastics up in Delaware, which has produced a lot of elite and Olympic track gymnasts. She worked for like 5+ years in pediatric gastroenterology. So she's super great with really all of our ages and stages, whether you've got the young, picky eater, struggling with underfueling. She also relates so well to our level 9s and 10s. And so, yeah, regardless of who you're working with, I know that you will love them. You will see the dietitians and the parent community, probably in some of our bonus workshops. And then I think you guys know me. So I don't think I need to introduce myself at this point. I do want to take care of a little bit of housekeeping before we dive into the content tonight. So these are our live group sessions. So these are mostly for parents, but your gymnasts are invited to 1 per month. So the first session, the third session, and the 5th session, your gymnasts are invited to. Obviously, these are at 5 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 8 o'clock Eastern. And so I know a lot of your gymnasts on a Tuesday night are at the gym, and that is totally fine. We do record these sessions. We post the replays in the client portal, Practice Better, which I'll show you. If you have an older gymnast, I really do want them to watch the sessions that are for them, because I think often them hearing it from someone else can be really effective. And I think the both of you hearing what you need to do can really help meal times go that much smoother. So there's just 6 live sessions, 2 a month. If you can commit to 2 hours a month, I promise you will learn so much of what you need. I think people often say that they're going to watch the replay and then life just gets super busy. And so if you can carve out that time, whether you're listening, in the car, on your commute back home, or you're listening while you're sitting waiting at the gym, or you're listening while cooking dinner, however you can, turn us on, I know that you will hear nuggets of wisdom that are going to make your job so much easier trying to fuel your gymnast. You all have been invited to our parent community, and I think most of you have already joined. This is in Facebook, so super easy. Most of you probably have it on your phone. This is a great place for questions, support. We'll start a little bit of something called plate coaching, which I'll share at the end tonight. If you have any problems, email support. If you've got questions with like technology, your logins, billing, if you are a one-on-one client, you have access in the chat to your dietitian, or we will turn that on when you have your first session. So right now, all of you have access to Laura, who is my right-hand girl. She's been with me from the start. She's the mom of now a level 10 gymnast. When she started with me, Coco was a level 8. Can't believe it. And so she can answer any questions you have about logistics, about where to find stuff. So she is in the portal. She's also in the Facebook group. So please ask questions. Our last cohort was amazing. The feedback was phenomenal. But there was a couple people that were like, oh, I didn't know we had the replays available to us, or oh, I didn't know we had access to all of the materials. And I was like, oh my goodness. Yes, you have had access to that. Like, we talked about that multiple times. Like, I hate that you missed some of the replays because like some of the things probably don't make that much sense if you only caught bits and pieces. So please, I don't expect you to know everything from the get-go. We're very happy to kind of point you in the right direction. If you are a one-on-one client, you have 4 sessions. So an in-depth initial consult, this is 60 to 75 minutes for gymnast and parent, where we deep dive into all aspects of your fueling, labs, growth, all the things. And then you've got 3 follow-up sessions. Those are about 45 minutes. And we try to do the first and second session within about 2 to 4 weeks. And it really just depends what's going on with your gymnast. And then we space out the follow-ups kind of every 3-4 weeks after that. We're trying to get everyone scheduled out as best as we can. You'll notice the schedules are tight because it is a very busy time of year. We have old clients who want to get back in because they want to get back in and check labs and start talking about comp fueling. And so we do our best to work around school and gym schedules, but your gymnast may on occasion need to miss a little school or gym, but it's no different than your doctor, where I don't know about you, but when I make a doctor's appointment, they give you like one day, one time, and you better figure out how to make it work, which we're a little bit more flexible than that. Obviously, we're all pretty full right now, like this week and next week, just because that's kind of how far our schedules book out, but definitely in the coming weeks, things are open. So don't wait. I know a lot of you are on top of it. You've already filled your forms out. You've already scheduled your sessions. It's great. But all that to say, don't wait. People who wait, then they get mad that they can't get in like that week. And I'm like, no, we're pretty busy. Like, we're pretty in demand. So you're lucky if you can get in the same week. Just kind of depends on how flexible you want to be. I want to share with you some wisdom from our other clients. These are the things that they do to be successful in the program. So the biggest thing is attending all the live sessions, or at least watching the replays, using the parent community for question support, accountability, emailing our team if you have any questions, if you can't find something. I don't want you to be frustrated. So if you can't find something, don't assume that it's not there. Please reach out. And then they utilize the one-on-one sessions, especially because we allow our dietitians, access to you and you to them between sessions. And so it's a great way for you to really get some support in that way. And if at any point you did not choose the one-on-one upgrade and you want to add those, just reach out to me and I'm absolutely happy to help add that on for you. Here's our schedule. So we've got 6 total sessions. I like to teach things very sequentially so that it all makes sense. And our sessions are 2 weeks apart. So I'm trying to give you guys some time to really master and work on what we have learned. I do not expect mastery. I do not expect perfection. The program is only 3 months, which is really a very short time frame in the lifespan of a year of your gymnast career, of her life. And so not everything is going to be solved in 3 weeks, and that is okay. Nutrition takes time. You're going to see some improvements pretty immediately. Others are going to take much longer. And that is okay. I want you guys to show up. I want you to try. I want you to ask questions, and I want you to be willing to make mistakes. The live group session links are in 2 different places for you. We try to post them everywhere so that you can't miss them. Predominantly, they are in the client portal Practice Better. So that is the portal that you signed up from. So when I sent you your enrollment link, that is what you used. What I love about our client portal is it will email and text remind you at least 48 hours before the session. We're not trying to annoy you, but I think it's really easy to miss stuff. In the email, you have the ability to add it to your calendar. It will not automatically add it for you. You need to click the link. I would highly recommend that because it's very easy to miss stuff. I literally had a meeting today. It was not with a client, not business related, but I had a meeting I scheduled at 3:30 after a client, and then I totally missed it. And the girl emailed me at 4 and she was like, were you meaning to stop by? And I was like, oh yeah, I was. I just got caught in the chaos of the workday. And so I know that that is similar for you guys as well. We also post the link in the Facebook group because I know that we're all on our phones and we're all on Facebook and you're logged into it all the time. And so that's an easy way to grab the link if you're like on the go and you're like, program's tonight, but I need the link. All the links should be different. It looks like some of them were the same, which is not normal. Normally every link is different. So I would just encourage you to click the link from that week and you'll be good to go. You guys will have ongoing access to our resources. And so if you log into Practice Better, which this is what the login looks like, if you go into your dashboard, there should be something called programs, or there will be something called programs. If you click that, you are enrolled in a couple different programs. So you're enrolled in the live session replays, and that's exactly what it sounds like. It has the 6 replays, which right now it has nothing because this is our first live session. We typically post replays within like 24 to 48 hours. And then you're enrolled in our on-demand trainings and resources. So that's where all the handouts are that I referenced. That's where a lot of recipe guides are. That's where a lot of on-demand videos and workshops are that you might pique your interest. And then you're also enrolled in our bonus trainings. So you'll see kind of 3 programs that you are enrolled in. We also have 3 bonus workshops that you guys get to participate in, so 1 per month. These links are in the Facebook group, and we'll also email them out to you. So we actually have our gymnast Q&A coming up this Sunday. So 10/27, I think the Q&A is at 4 o'clock Mountain Time, 6 o'clock Eastern, just for gymnasts. We're going to be chatting nutrition, plate coaching, helping all of our new program gymnasts kind of wrap their heads around the food groups and performance. So it's going to be great. November gymnast cooking class. These are so fun. I would say one of the top pieces of feedback we get from the cohort is people want more cooking classes. Right now, we only do them quarterly. So our last one was in, I guess like September, August. And then this is our last one for the year. It's super fun. Normally these start at like 4 o'clock Mountain Time, 6 o'clock Eastern. It's just 2 hours. A week or 2 ahead of time, we give you the recipe packet, the ingredient list, and we usually make a full meal. So we make a main entree. We always try to make a veggie because I want to help your gymnasts learn to like them and find ways to make them taste good. We normally have some other side dish, sometimes a sweet treat, sometimes not. It just kind of depends on the theme and what the recipes are. So definitely stay tuned for that. We'll make sure the links are where you need them. And then December, we'll have our Fueling for Comp Season workshop. So this is one of our community's favorite workshops. We do it every year where I walk you through exactly what to feed your gymnast, no matter what time they're competing. So whether it's 8 a.m., 12 p.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m., we talk about how to deal with travel and logistics and nerves and, how fueling differs between a normal practice versus comp day. So I think this will be very timely for you because tonight we're going to talk about how to fuel your gymnast in general. Week 3, we'll talk about how to use performance nutrition, so pre, intra, post workout. And then several weeks later, December 15th, we will translate that all to competition day. In terms of confidentiality, it is a group program in this kind of live program sense right here. So I ask that you don't share anything in the Facebook group. Please don't do screenshots. What happens here stays here. I want this to be a safe space for parents and gymnasts to ask questions. Obviously, anything you do with your dietitian in your one-on-one sessions, that is definitely confidential. So no worries there. But in terms of kind of this setting here tonight, I ask that, what happens here stays here. Okay, any questions about that? I feel like we're getting everyone settled in. I think you guys win the award for people who have filled out their forms the fastest. I know some of you have gotten everything taken care of so quickly that Laura hasn't even had a chance to reach out to you yet. So I'm super, super happy about that. Okay. So I'd love to start every cohort with a nutrition assessment, right? We have to figure out what's happening with our gymnasts. How is it going? How are they doing before we know what we need to work on, right? And so I think it's important a couple times a year, right? Every quarter to step back and you and your gymnast to discuss, how's it going, right? How is gym going? How is growth and development? This is a big thing that I teach parents. We'll talk about this in sessions 4 and 5. From a gymnast perspective, how are their energy levels? What's happening with injuries? How's their focus? How are we progressing with our skills? What are we doing from a prevention standpoint with nutrition? Because your gymnast nutrition needs are constantly changing and evolving as they're growing, developing, and they're advancing the levels. And then a really important thing to me is, how is their relationship with food in their body? And are we talking about food and fueling in a way that is supportive of that? I want to start tonight with the Gymnast Foundation. And I know a lot of you are really smart and you know what carbs, protein, and fat are, and you've maybe studied nutrition for yourself. But one of the biggest things that parents say is they had no idea the differences of, what it looks like to fuel a gymnast versus just normal people nutrition. And I'm like, well, that makes sense, because why would you have learned how to fuel a gymnast who literally works out more than a professional athlete, right? I mean, like, most of your kids are training 20 plus hours a week, if not 25, 30 hours a week. And so it is completely different nutrition than for you as an adult who maybe has a desk job. It's completely different than an adult professional athlete who is not growing and developing anymore. So I want to make sure that we are all on the same wavelength. Tell me in the chat or raise your hand if you have heard food is fuel. This is an expression that people love to use in the sports world. Food is fuel. You got to make sure that you put the best fuel in your body. Your body's a race car, right? Not a dump truck. Well, so here's the deal. This is not wrong, right? Food is fuel, but food is also social, and it's cultural, and it's emotional. And I definitely do care about your gymnasts eating healthfully, eating nutrient-dense foods, but at the same time, there's three main food groups. There's carbs, protein, and fat. And your body actually doesn't know what comes from what. So it doesn't know where the energy comes from. All it knows is whether or not it has enough. That doesn't mean that these things don't matter. Of course they do. But all carbs, protein, and fat break down into energy, or what you might hear called calories. We're not going to talk about calories a lot. We are definitely not going to count them. But I know that we live in a world where it is everywhere. It's on the menus, it's on all of our food products. Your gymnasts are being taught about them in school and health class and biology. And it is one very, very small aspect of nutrition. In fact, a calorie is just a measure of heat. So to try and quantify, to try to figure out how much energy food has, scientists will literally blow it up in the science lab, and they will measure how much heat that food gives off, and that is how much energy it has. So when you see foods that are high calorie versus low calorie, those are not good versus bad, healthy versus unhealthy. High calorie just means high energy, and low calorie means low energy, and that's okay. We need a mix of all different foods. Like I said, this is about the last slide you're ever going to see from me talking about energy and calories, but I want to set the record straight because I think there's a lot of confusion when it comes to how much nutrition your gymnast needs. And obviously this varies amongst your gymnasts based on their age, their level, their growth, their development, but most kind of tween teenage gymnasts, if they were just laying in bed all day doing absolutely nothing, their bodies would require at least 14, 16, 1800 calories a day to not die, like for their body to not start eating itself. And that really only represents about 50% of your gymnast energy needs. And a lot of parents have been under the impression that that's like all their gymnast needs. And that is not true at all. That's really half of it. The next part of how much they need is what's called non-exercise activity. So this can be 15 to 30% of their total daily energy needs. And this just comes from walking around school, walking around the house, all the movement that we do that's not intentional exercise. If you have a fidgeter, if your gymnast is a fidgeter, they are expending a lot of extra energy compared to someone who can sit perfectly still all day. We then have intentional exercise. So this is, what their body is needing to support their gymnastics. And this can be hundreds, if not thousands of calories in a practice, just depending again on the age, the level, the intensity, the duration. We have the cost of food digestion and absorption. We've got injury recovery, which can increase our nutrition needs. And this all boils down to this concept of adequate energy availability, where at the end of the day, all your body cares about is whether or not there is enough nutrition left over to grow and develop, repair, recover, and adapt or get better, faster, stronger from your training. If we don't have enough nutrition to do all three of those things, we're going to run into problems. This is why there's a lot of gymnasts who they're growing and developing, they're not injured, but they're just not really progressing super well in the gym. And that's because we're just not quite closing that recovery gap to meet that third step. Or if you already have a gymnast who's not growing and developing, things have probably not been going super well for a while. Most of it probably under the radar and you had no idea. But like I said, the body has a very specific order of how it likes to do things. So this is one way that we can kind of look at this picture and decide, how our gymnast is doing with their nutrition. If you did our challenge, you probably saw this graphic, and I'm going to show it again and again because I think it's so important. But the reality is a lot of competitive gymnasts are underfueled. And I'm not just saying this. We've literally worked with hundreds of gymnasts, probably thousands of gymnasts at this point, one-on-one. And most of them, I would say, upon initial nutrition assessment, are meeting anywhere from 50 to maybe 80% of their nutrition needs. You might hear, oh, well, they're meeting 80%. Like, that's not that bad. It's not that bad, but it actually only takes a 200 to 300 calorie per day deficit to cause bone mineral loss and to cause hormonal problems in a female. And so our bodies as females, we're very finicky, right? We're like a sports car. We have to be very finely tuned. We're not the rugged old pickup truck. And so especially a growing body that's under a lot of physical and mental stress, AKA most gymnasts, their bodies can be very sensitive to this. Underfueling can be very sneaky. It often presents as not growing and developing, struggling with strength, skills, and power, struggling with mood, emotion regulation, focus, concentration, or certainly injuries. And you don't have to tell me in the chat, but I'd say raise your hand if we were in a room together, because I know a lot of you can relate to these symptoms, and this has really been a light bulb moment for you. Even if your gymnast is growing and developing and they're totally healthy and they have all their skills, so you're like, I don't even know if nutrition really matters. Well, what about body composition, right? What about resiliency? What about, could they be doing any better, right? Unless they're Simone Biles, there's probably some room for improvement, right? And so there's this concept that we'll talk about of within day energy balance, where even if your gymnast is eating enough, the right foods at the right time is really important for a couple of reasons. On the left here, we have the underfueled gymnast, right? Where we kind of eat breakfast or we kind of not. We kind of eat lunch, we kind of not. We then go to gym for a couple hours. And then, of course, we're starving. Even if this is enough food within the day, we're spending too much of this day underfueled and we're getting in the way of repair, recovery. We're not fueling into the workout. It signals to the brain that the body is starving all day, and that increases stress hormones and increases muscle loss. So it's definitely not good for the body. Versus on the right, we have the fueled gymnast, this is what we're all going to work towards, of more evenly distributed meals throughout the day, protein every 3 to 5 hours to keep that balance of muscle buildup and muscle breakdown, the right foods at the right time to really maximize your gymnast efforts in the gym. So it's not just about not eating enough, but it's also about strategy and timing. All right. I want to teach you guys what we call the performance plates. So this is a very simple visual way to build meals and snacks. But before I teach you the plates, we got to review the food groups real quick. You might know this as a parent, but this might be new to your gymnast, so I definitely want them to listen. One of the biggest, most important food groups for a gymnast is carbohydrate. We call these carbs for short, and a lot of people are surprised. When people hear carbs and they hear athletes, who do they think of, right? They think of runners, they think of swimmers, they think of marathoners, triathletes. Like, they don't often think of gymnasts. And that's okay, because what people don't understand is that gymnastics is actually a high intensity anaerobic sport. And the higher the intensity of the sport, the more the body relies on carbohydrate. Do gymnasts need as much carbohydrate as a marathoner who's running 20 miles a day? No, not necessarily. But at the same time, a lot of your gymnasts are training 4 to 6 hours a day. And so they might actually need more carbs than someone who's running for 90 minutes. Carbohydrates are the main fuel source for your brain, your heart, your lungs, and your muscles. So basically everything, very important. We get carbohydrate from fruits. We really don't get them a lot from veggies. Veggies are technically carbohydrates, but they really have more fiber and water. So they don't give us a lot of energy, but they're still good for us. We definitely get carbs from grains and starches. So rice, flour, potatoes, beans, stuff like that. And then we get carbs from anything sweet. So sugar, any kind of sugar, doesn't matter, still a carb. And then dairy products have a little bit of carb, like milk has lactose, that's the natural milk sugar. So definitely all contributes. Tell me in the chat if you have heard of simple carbs versus complex carbs. This is kind of a more advanced nutrition concept, but complex carbs are your whole foods. So whole grains, beans, whole, starches, potatoes, fruits, veggies. These are all carbohydrates, but they digest more slowly. So it takes your body longer to break them down. They release energy into the body more slowly. And we want this most of the time. We want this steady release of energy. We don't want to be on this roller coaster all day. What makes them release slowly is fiber. So fiber we'll talk about, but that's really the difference maker here. Simple carbs are typically sugars. Doesn't matter what type it is, white sugar, brown sugar, honey, maple syrup, all of it is a carbohydrate. All of it is a sugar. They digest very quickly, and that's not a bad thing. There are very specific instances where we might want these kinds of carbs, especially in and around workouts. And then something that people don't realize is when you eat these sugars with other foods, the other foods slow down how quickly they digest. So if you eat a cookie, a cookie also has fat from the butter. It's got marginal protein, probably not a whole lot of fiber, but at least the fat in the cookie helps to kind of buffer how quickly that sugar digests. So I think most of us are not just eating straight sugar unless you're maybe drinking a lot of soda. So there's definitely a place for both of these in the gymnast diet, but we definitely want more emphasis on the slower carbs. We'll talk more about how carbohydrates relate to performance in session 3, but all carbohydrates break down into sugar. That is what every cell in your body uses for energy, and that is what your brain uses, your muscle uses, and this could be a real difference maker for gymnasts. There's also some very interesting research about carbs lately, where if you have what's called low carbohydrate availability, so if you're eating enough, but you're not getting enough carbohydrate, that actually can increase inflammation in the body that then can cause the bones to break down and demineralize. And so it's a bummer that people are still very iffy about carbs, especially in the gymnastics world. Not only is it the main fuel source, but think about how many bone-related injuries we see, right? You also need carbohydrate for your thyroid hormone to be produced. You need it for reproductive hormones. You need it for your brain hormones. And so very important to get enough in the diet. Fiber is a type of carb, but it doesn't really give us energy. It's the crunchy stuff in whole grains, oats, pears, apples, broccoli, veggies. It helps with fullness. Fiber is what's called a prebiotic. Who's heard of that Olipop soda, the poppy soda? That soda, they've added prebiotic or prebiotics, but it's really technically fiber. My husband, he likes some of the Olipops, and he calls them poop pops because if you get too much fiber, it might make you poop. Prebiotic fibers are good. They help to feed your good bacteria in your gut. So I definitely want your gymnast to get fiber where she can. But I will say, if you have a gymnast who is underfueled, if you have a gymnast who you are just struggling to get them to eat enough, it actually would not be very kind to them to try to push a lot of really high fiber foods that are just going to make them feel more full when they're already struggling to get enough nutrition. And that right there, that's called medical nutrition therapy. We're not saying that fiber is not important, but in your specific situation, right now might not be the time to go completely crazy with all the broccoli and oats and quinoa and all the stuff, because if your gymnast is too full but hasn't actually eaten enough, we're going to have some problems. When it comes to carbohydrates, fruits and veggies fit that category. For the purposes of our performance plate, I like to call this color. So when I talk about color, is there color on your plate? I'm just referring to fruits and vegetables. I want your gymnast to eat a wide variety of fruits and veggies. If she loves both of them, awesome. Let's try to get veggies at lunch and dinner. Let's try to get fruits a couple times a day. If your gymnast is still learning to like veggies, that's okay. Let's keep introducing them. Let's find different ways to prepare them. Fruits and veggies can give us energy, really more fruit. They tend to have more carbohydrate, but both of them have lots of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, things that are going to be really important for your gymnast. So when we're building performance plates, we want to have some color on there. Parents will ask me, what about nutrition labels? Should I be looking at things, tracking things? And I'm like, no. In other countries, they are not as obsessed with food labels as we are. I think we just need to use our brains and our eyeballs and look at our plates. And I think that's a great place to start. The one exception to this is going to be in session 3 when I teach you about performance nutrition. We will talk about grams of carbohydrate because I want to make sure that your gymnast gets enough, specifically when it comes to intra-workout. Parents always ask me about this percent daily value column on the side. That is completely arbitrary and meaningless. It has nothing to do with your gymnast, so just ignore that. Sometimes you might look at a food label at the very bottom here to look at how much calcium something has, or maybe iron if you're trying to increase iron-rich foods. So we'll talk more about this when it's relevant, but it's not something I stress about. Fat is our next food group. So most people don't know this, but your brain is actually 50% fat, and fat also insulates all of your nerves. We have fat in our bodies. We have fat on our bodies. It helps to insulate us and protect our organs. So it's very important. Some of the fat we have in our body is stored really deep in our muscles for kind of like last ditch energy when it comes to a sport like gymnastics. Fat is also the building block of hormones. So hormones in your body, these are chemical messengers, whether it's stress hormones, reproductive hormones. So it's very important that we get enough healthy fats. How much of your gymnast diet should be fat? About 20 to 30%. No need to count or measure. You just need to make sure there's a good fat source at their meal. And it might be something that you've cooked with, like you roasted the veggies in olive oil and you have a nice salad dressing, or maybe they're having, a bagel for breakfast and we do need to add some fat to it, like cream cheese or nut butter or something like that to make sure we're hitting the food groups. There's 2 types of fat that people talk about, saturated versus unsaturated. Saturated has gotten a bad rap in the last couple decades because of cholesterol. Nutrition researchers are kind of coming around and saying, oh, wait, maybe it's not as bad as we thought. Saturated fats tend to be solid at room temperature, and they tend to come from animals. So things like butter, the fat on meat, bacon, stuff like that. No need to go crazy with it, but definitely fine to enjoy it. Unsaturated fats tend to have a lot more nutrition benefit. They tend to come from plants. So we do want to focus on those. So avocado, olive oil, nuts and seeds, fatty salmon, all those things are really, really healthy for your brain, for your heart, and for inflammation levels. In session 5, when we talk about injuries and inflammation, we'll talk about the omega-3s. These are a very special type of fat that helps to lower inflammation, also very important for brain health. None of us are getting enough omega-3s in our diet unless you're eating salmon every day. And so definitely something we'll talk about when it comes to supplements. But if you can introduce some salmon, if you could eat it once or twice a week, that would certainly be better than nothing. And we need fat to help absorb our vitamins. So vitamin A, D, and K, we need fats for those to be absorbed. For parents, kind of a quick sidebar about grocery shopping. So I often get asked about well, what kind of milk should I buy? Is whole milk okay? What kind of yogurt? Is 0% fat okay? Or can I do the full fat? And here's the deal. Definitely don't want you buying skim products. There's good research supporting that the higher consumption of skim dairy products, the higher the rates of infertility. So don't want that. I like whole milk. I like whole dairy products. I'm also fine with 2%. So whatever milk you want there is fine with me. Definitely whole cheeses. I try to get whole yogurts. If your gymnast doesn't like Greek yogurt, if it was a whole yogurt sweetened with real sugar, they might actually like it. When it comes to stuff like ice cream, I want you to enjoy the real deal. As you'll get to know me, satisfaction is a really important part to our eating. And if you're constantly eating diety, low fat, fake sugar, Franken foods, you're going to have a really hard time feeling satisfied and listening to your body. And I think that's a huge problem in today's, food landscape in America. So I definitely want you guys trying to eat as much kind of whole foods as possible. I don't mean the store, but I mean, fruits and veggies and proteins and healthy fats. And if you're going to enjoy, a fun food, as I call it, I want you to eat what really tastes good and be satisfied and then move on. Real butter's totally fine. Don't buy any of the fake buttery margarine spreads. Those really aren't good for you. And then when you're cooking, you can use nonstick pans. You can use olive oil. Stuff like that is great. When it comes to shopping for proteins, you'll often hear nutritionists say lean proteins only, which a lean protein is a protein that doesn't have really any fat. So dry chicken breast, white fish like tilapia, maybe shrimp, super low fat ground beef that tastes like sauteed cardboard. I'm not about that. If you're going to get your gymnast to eat, it needs to taste good. And the fat that is in our food helps us to absorb the nutrition from it. And so, buy whatever ground beef you want. I mean, it doesn't have to be super, super fatty, but there definitely can be some fat there so that it's not dry. I really like dark meat. If your gymnast has a hard time eating chicken, or you feel like your chicken breasts are always dry and overcooked, you might really like chicken thighs. They're harder to overcook and they have more iron, they have more nutrients, and they're definitely much more tender. I actually want your gymnast to get red meat probably twice a week because it's really important that they get that high quality heme iron, which is only found in animal products. Pork can be great in terms of a source of protein. Eggs are fabulous. Egg yolks are one of the very few foods that have a nutrient called choline, which is essential for brain health. And all of your gymnast brains are still growing. So love seeing eggs incorporated into the mix. And then, fish can be a great protein. Fatty fish like salmon have all those super healthful omega-3s. So all a work in progress, but those are my thoughts. Protein is our last food group. I think we know what protein is. We know that protein is important for repairing and recovering our muscles and our tendons and our ligaments. Protein is also important for height and linear growth. We need the phosphorus and the zinc from the protein that we eat. And it's one of the main building blocks of the body. We've got animal proteins versus plant proteins. About 15 to 30% of your diet should be protein, which we'll talk about that with the plates. And protein is also really important to help keep us full. If you have just a bowl of cereal for breakfast, which is not enough for anyone, you will not be very full for very long, right? You'll probably want something more in 30 minutes to an hour. And a big part of that is there's really not enough protein there. I can't remember if we have any vegetarians with us. I don't think we have any vegans, but we do want to focus on high quality proteins. So high quality proteins are from animals for the most part, except for soy. And they're called high quality because your body can use them gram for gram. I know for a lot of your gymnasts, protein is a struggle. And so if you're gonna bother to eat the protein, we wanna make sure that your body can actually use and absorb it. So any animal protein, and then the one plant protein that is considered high quality is soy. So soy milk, edamame, stuff like that. Incomplete proteins are missing one or more of the main building blocks, or they're just not super easily digested. And so things like collagen, pea protein, hemp protein, these are not complete proteins. So you cannot just switch them out one for one in your smoothie or as part of your meal, because you're going to be missing out on key nutrients that your body and your muscles need. The last food group is dairy and calcium. So I know that technically dairy foods have actually several food groups. Dairy products like milk have carbs from the milk sugar or the lactose. They've got protein, and then they definitely have some milk fat. And so we want 3 to 4 servings a day of milk, cheese, yogurt because your gymnast needs a lot of calcium for her bones. Tell me in the chat, how much calcium do you think your gymnast needs for her bones? Like how many milligrams a day or how many servings per day does your gymnast need of calcium? I say 4, more than we get. I love the honesty. 4. Look at you guys. Yeah, so it's about 4. Your gymnast needs 1,300 milligrams a day. A cup of milk is about 400. Cheese or yogurt might be 200. And so if we average about 3 to 4 a day, we're going to get pretty close. If you don't get enough calcium from your diet, your body will just steal it from your bones, because not only is calcium important for your bones, but your muscles actually use calcium to contract. Your heart muscle, every time it beats, it's using calcium. And so because it's so important in the body, if you don't get it from your diet, your body's not going to let you die. It's just going to steal the calcium from your bones. And if it's stealing calcium from your bones are going to be weak. And again, I know a lot of you have had stress fractures, stress reactions. You're currently going through it. And so bone health is a big topic of conversation for us. We'll talk about this in session 5, but all the current research shows that dairy actually has a mild anti-inflammatory benefit. People love to poo-poo on dairy, but it actually has a mild anti-inflammatory benefit. It's a great source of calcium. It's a great source of high quality protein. I just saw a gymnast today that really hates all proteins except for chicken nuggets. And for her, getting a cup of Fairlife milk at breakfast, which has 13 grams of protein, that was a huge win. And almond milk, soy milk, it just doesn't compare. Plant milks can be a source of calcium, but they typically are not great with protein. You might have a gymnast with a true milk allergy, and if that's the case, obviously they can't do real milk, but probably my first choice would be like a soy milk or Ripple milk, just because both of those at least have about 8 grams of protein per cup, which is about the same as like regular milk. All right. I want to teach you guys the plate method, and then I'm definitely going to go back and answer questions. Oh, no worry. You guys can definitely finish the replay. The plate method is not a diet. It's not meant to be something that's perfect or exact. It's just a simple visual method to help you plan filling and satisfying meals and snacks that give your gymnasts what they need. This is going to be a work in progress. Your dietitian can help you kind of decide which plate's appropriate for your gymnast, but I want to give you an introduction. So there's 3 plates: low intensity, moderate intensity, and high intensity. Someone tell me in the chat, what is one difference that you spot between these 3 plates? Low versus moderate versus high. What is one difference that you spot between the plates? And I know you guys are you're a smart bunch already. Yep, the carbs. Exactly. That's the biggest difference. So you'll notice on the low intensity plate, carbs, it's just a fourth of the plate. And that's because the more exercise we do, the more carbs we need. So if you're like me and you're pretty sedentary, seeing clients on Zoom all day, a low intensity plate might be appropriate for me. If you are a growing gymnast that's training 20 or 30 hours a week, there are very few, I would say hardly ever going to be a situation where low intensity would actually be appropriate. But for parents, this is what I love about the performance plate is you don't need to make separate meals for your gymnast. You can all eat the same thing, but you can organize your plate differently. And I would say this is actually a very helpful method for parents to manage their health, to improve their health. And it's very simple. We've got protein, fourth of the plate, palm size, your palm size. So obviously as an adult, my palm is bigger than your gymnast. Fourth of the plate carbs, half a plate fruits and veggies, source of fat, and a source of calcium. Moderate intensity plate, that is a minimum for probably most of you. So a third protein, a third carbs, a third fruits and veggies, always a fat source, always a calcium source. This is pretty appropriate for most lower level gymnasts if they are growing and developing. I know that a lot of your gymnasts, level 6, 7s, are not on track with growth. They've been under fueling, and so they're definitely going to need a high intensity plate. But you may have a 16-year-old gymnast who, is growing. They have their cycle, they need help with nutrition, but we're at least getting enough. Moderate might be appropriate for them. High intensity is where a lot of you, I think, will be 20, 25, 30 hours a week, 2-a-day workouts, under fueling, behind on growth, tons of injuries related to under fueling. That's the plate they're going to be working on. It is half a plate carbohydrate because the higher intensity at gym, the more carbohydrates, or if we're behind on fueling. Quarter of the plate protein. We only want the minimum of protein for an athlete. We don't want more than that because protein's really filling. And if they're already struggling to eat what's on the plate, we don't want to overdo it. That's also why the color portion is really small. You might look at that and be like, well, that's not enough fruits and vegetables. Well, yeah, it's not a lot, but if your gymnast needs a lot of food, if they're not used to eating all of that, it's going to be a process. For some of your gymnasts, they will need a high intensity plus plate that also has nutritional beverages. So milk, flavored milk, juices, if they're really struggling with their nutrition and not getting enough, 3 high intensity plates a day for sure, 2 or 3 snacks, probably 3, and then we can add some nutritional beverages in there. Someone asked me, what do we focus on first? So 10-inch dinner plate, like normal dinner plate, use the inner ring. Do your best to fill the portions pretty well. Obviously, if you have a teeny tiny young gymnast, they're not going to eat a super full plate. But it probably needs to be more than what they're currently doing. Again, just kind of based on what's happening with nutrition. I would prioritize the protein and the carbs. Those are probably the two most important food groups. Try to get fat within all of that, then focus on the fruits and veggies, and then try to bring the calcium, which might be part of your protein or something like that. We'll do some plate coaching in the Facebook group, so you'll get some ideas. And we'll also do some more tonight to give you ideas. We have our performance plate guide. So go in the portal under programs, under on-demand trainings and resources. That is where all the downloadable PDFs are. Lots of parents like to print them out, put them in a cute binder for your gymnast, especially if they're visual. They like things they can kind of open and look at. That has the plates, and it also has a snack guide. So when it comes to fueling your gymnast, the first thing we take care of is our structure. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, these are non-negotiable. We want to try to make these meals as equal as possible. We don't want minimal breakfast, minimal lunch, and then everything after practice. That is not even, and you're not going to be performing or repairing and recovering as you want to. Snacks we fit between the meals. So if your gymnast goes to gym in the afternoon, she might have a mid-morning snack. She may have a pre-workout snack, which is her afternoon snack. And then she may or may not need a bedtime snack, which we'll talk about. Here are some examples. I think the most important thing is you got to stay on a schedule. If your gymnast goes to school, they probably wake up early enough to have breakfast and then a snack and then lunch, or maybe lunch and then a snack, right? If your gymnast is homeschooled, sometimes we see that they really struggle because they can sometimes really sleep in. Not always, it depends on who's running the show, but I definitely have gymnasts that struggle because they can sleep in, so they do sleep in. They don't wake up till 9 or 10. That's when they have breakfast, and then they're absolutely behind for the day. I saw a kid last week, level 10, 12 years old. We've been working on underfueling for like a year now, finally making some good progress. And this year she started homeschooling, which is great. Like in some ways it's made things easier, but she's staying up till 11 p.m. and then she's waking up at 10 a.m. And then gym starts at 2. So even if she has breakfast right at 10, and then she has lunch at like 12:31, she's not getting enough. She's not getting enough. And so we kind of had that discussion of like, okay, you need to eat more at those meals. We need a huge bedtime snack almost like at dinner. If those things don't fix our problem, then like you're going to have to get up earlier so that we can fit more between your meals. So definitely something for you and your gymnast to work on, but staying on a schedule is very much part of your success. I don't want you to feel like you can't do anything, but your gymnast is a high level athlete. Their body is a machine. Their body is constantly trying to repair and recover. It's very different than you as a parent or anyone else. It's just very different. And so a word about the weekends. I think the weekends is where a lot of gymnasts and parents struggle. They don't want structure, right? They don't want to think about food. They've just spent the whole week packing lunches and figuring what's for dinner. And because of that, a lot of gymnasts don't eat enough on the weekends. They sleep in, they have 2 meals, they have random snacks. And 2 of 7 days is a lot, right? Like that's like 30% of your week. And so I am more concerned about your gymnast not getting enough. And even though your gymnast might not be training on the weekend, the body is constantly trying to repair and recover. It's continuing to recover for 48 hours after the practice. And so if your gymnast has practice Friday, even Sunday, their body's still trying to repair and recover, and we want to give them the nutrition or the building blocks that it needs to do so. All right, we're going to put your knowledge to the test. Here are 3 different performance plate examples. They are 3 different types of plates. So one is moderate, one is low, one is high. It's going to be your job to tell me which is which. So we're going to start with the breakfast. It is an English muffin egg sandwich with an egg, cheese, Canadian bacon, and some strawberries. Tell me in the chat if you think that that plate is a low intensity plate, moderate intensity, or high intensity. What kind of plate do you think that is? I see some lows, I see some moderates. I see a low, moderate, moderate. Interesting. Tell me why you think it's moderate. Tell me in the chat, what makes you think it's a moderate versus a low intensity plate, if that's what you said? What makes it moderate versus low or high? No wrong answers, no judgment here. This is a safe space to make mistakes, to take guesses. I love it. Okay, someone said carbs, protein, fruit, all there, equal portions. Someone said less carbs, all portions are equal, more carbs, less color. I love it. So here's my rule of thumb. If it is 2 square pieces of bread or a little English muffin or 1 muffin or a little scoop of rice or pasta, that is pretty much a low intensity plate. If it is bigger bread, like the bigger bread sandwiches, and there's no other carb, there's no chips, there's no nothing, that's probably more moderate. So that might be helpful for you of like, is this low? Is this moderate? I would consider this a low intensity plate because the only real starchy carbs are the English muffin. Fruit is technically a carb, but we want to call that color for the purposes of the plate. So we're not really super concerned about it. But from just like a bread standpoint, I'd say this is low intensity. Like I would eat this for breakfast because I'm not doing gymnastics anymore. I like the protein. It actually has probably close to 15, 20-ish grams of protein. It's got calcium, it's got fats, like it has everything else, but I would say that's probably low intensity. What would you add to that to make it moderate intensity? What would you change about it, or what would you add to it on the side to add more carbs to make it moderate intensity? You could add like bread types of carbs, you could add liquid carbs, you could add anything like that. What could you add to kind of bump it up and make it more moderate? Someone said chocolate milk. Excellent. Yep, you could add chocolate milk, liquid carbs if it's like real sugar sweetened milk. You could add a little bit of a muffin. You could add some milk. You know, it's got the normal carbs in it. Your gymnast could probably benefit from more calcium. You technically could add a little bit of cereal to it, right? You could add that. So yeah, I think you guys get the idea there. All right, this plate in the middle. This is a normal dinner plate filled with chicken fried rice, which I think might be what we're having for dinner. It's got chicken, it's got scrambled eggs, fried rice is cooked in oil, it's got some green onions on it. Tell me if that is a low, moderate, or high intensity plate. I see a high, I see a moderate, I see a high, another high. And then tell me, is that plate missing anything? Is it missing any of the food groups, in your opinion? Yep, missing color, missing fruit or veggies. Yeah, I think the green onions, like those are a nice decoration and good for flavor, but I would probably put a veggie with it if it's dinner. If your kid doesn't love veggies, we could definitely do a fruit. I would call this I would call this a high intensity plate if it's like truly a big plate. If it's like a little tiny bowl, that might not be enough carbs to make it high intensity. But if it's like a full dinner size plate that's filled, that's probably like 2 cups of rice at least. So that's definitely high intensity. Let's say you order in Thai food or Chinese or something, and you've got fried rice and you've got chicken and broccoli and you've got Mongolian beef. How would you put that on your plate? Okay, well, ask yourself what food is what. Okay, you've got fried rice, so that's mostly your carbs with a little bit of protein. You've got Mongolian beef, which is maybe just beef, maybe some broccoli in it with some sticky sweet sauce, which gives some carbs. And then I think I said orange chicken. So I'd look at the plate. You're probably going to have more protein that night than maybe normal. So you've got a little orange chicken, you got a little Mongolian beef, and then maybe half of your plate is the fried rice that's got some chicken, right? And maybe you've got an egg roll on the side, but as you can tell, it's not going to be perfect. But definitely, you know, we do the best that we can for sure. It is missing dairy or calcium. Good job, Mila. Yeah, fried rice, they do not put any calcium in that, which is fine. That would be weird. There's a sushi place that we love, and there's this one sushi roll, and they put mozzarella cheese on it and they melt it. And the first time I ordered it, I told them I did not want mozzarella cheese on my sushi. And they thought I had a lactose intolerance. And so, literally, for 2 years, they have believed that They actually call it a lactose allergy. My husband would go pick it up and he's like, "Oh, your wife has the lactose allergy." And I'm like, "Oh no, it's not an allergy. I don't have a food allergy. I just think that it's weird to put cheese on my sushi, right?" So I'm not going to make you put cheese in your fried rice, but you might have a glass of milk on the side. You might have that at bedtime, or maybe you've had enough kind of earlier in the day. And again, it's about the averages of what are we doing most of the time. All right. Last plate. This is a big bread sandwich. So not little square, but big bread sandwich. 2 pieces of bread. Sandwich has cheese, several slices of deli turkey. It's supposed to have avocado in the sandwich. On the side, we've got a handful of peanut butter pretzels. We've got watermelon, blackberries, carrots, and cucumbers. Is that plate low, moderate, or high? I see some high, I see some moderate, moderate. Okay, so I consider this a high intensity plate for 2 reasons. Number 1, the bread is big bread. So if it was just big bread and no other carbs, no pretzels, no cookie, nothing on the side, if it was just the bread, I would call that moderate intensity. So I think that's why some of you were like, "Ah, it's moderate." But we added carbs to it. We added the peanut butter pretzels. Pretzels are made of flour, a grain, they're carbs. So that helps bump up the carbs to make it a high intensity plate. So a lot of your gymnasts probably cannot finish that big of a sandwich. So maybe they still have a small sandwich with pretzels, but you might need to add a glass of juice or something to really get enough carbs for them. I feel like this plate has a lot of color. This is actually one of my level 10s who's now in college. And I just have always used her plate because it's really pretty. She could finish all of this because she was, 16 pounds and a grown woman, or not 16 pounds, 16 years old and a grown woman. But I know a lot of your gymnasts, if they were to eat that much fruit and veggies, they would not be able to finish near enough of their plate. So go easy on the fruit and veggie portion if you're still working up on trying to get them to eat enough carbs or protein. All right. Hopefully this gives you a good introduction. Use a performance plate handout. We'll do some plate coaching in the Facebook group where you'll get to see different examples of plates. And I'm going to make you tell me what your plate is, which we'll talk about that. And that will be really helpful in this next 2 weeks to get your head wrapped around the performance plates. This is one of the handouts we have on breakfast. We have another handout on lunches and dinners to give you some ideas. My kind of formula is pick your protein. That's always the hardest. Chicken, beef, fish, pork. Like, what's the protein tonight? Then pick the carbs. That's usually easier. So are we having pasta, rice, potatoes, tortillas, pitas, beans? Add your color, add your calcium, make sure there's some healthy fats there. And then I like to add in what I call the satisfaction factor. So it might be a good sauce or a fun cheese or bacon or just something to really make the meal taste good. I know tonight we've talked about Thai. We've also talked about Mediterranean, which I love Mediterranean. I think it makes such a good performance plate. We usually will order like chicken kebab. So chicken's your protein. It usually comes on a bed of rice. So there's your carbs. They usually cook that with some sort of oil, olive oil. So there's some fat. I love hummus, which hummus, it's kind of a mixed food. There's a lot of mixed foods out there. So hummus is made of chickpeas. So beans are technically carbs. They do have some good protein. They have a fair bit of fiber. To make hummus, you add chickpeas and you usually add some olive oil to it. So it might have some fat. I like a Greek salad on the side with it, which will have color. If there's some feta cheese, there's some calcium. So super easy meal to make a performance plate. Maybe it's pizza night at your house. Couple pieces of pizza, crust is your carb, cheese is your protein with whatever toppings you might have. Sauce does not count as a vegetable, despite what Michelle Obama says. I do need you to put a salad or fruits or veggies or something with it. You probably don't need to add milk unless your gymnast just needs more nutrition. And that can work, right? So hopefully you're feeling less pressure in terms of preparing meals for your gymnast. It's not about perfection. It's not about who can be the most gourmet cook. It's not about the healthiest meal. Your biggest prerogative right now is to hit the food groups. After we do that, we will work on increasing variety, increasing nutrient density, but this is going to get us like 80 to 90% of the way there. Some of you might be wondering about mixed meals. So things like pizza, lasagna, casserole, sushi, pasta dishes. You're like, wait a second, how is that going to fit the performance plate, right? If you make a big pasta bake that's got pasta and chicken and Alfredo and broccoli, it's all mixed together. Like, how are you supposed to portion it on the plate? How are you supposed to know what kind of plate that is? Don't stress about it. Most of these mixed meals, which is most of what we eat, it's usually a high intensity meal on its own. It usually has enough carbs. Double check it's got some protein, and then it's probably missing color. So again, pizza night. You might have 2 pieces of pizza and then you pair a salad or fruit with it. If it's a pasta bake that's got, pasta and chicken and broccoli and Alfredo sauce, that almost fits all the food groups. You might add a little bit more fruit and veggie to it. You maybe need a glass of milk with it. When we go out for sushi, not always, but usually I'll order edamame to get some veggies in, to get some fiber in, to get some protein in, and then I just enjoy the sushi and call it good. It's not about perfection, okay? Not every meal is going to have a veggie. Your kid may not even like veggies yet. I do need you to continue to offer them because exposure is the only way that they're going to learn to like them. So yeah, nothing to stress about. This handout is inside the performance nutrition tool. I'm sorry, the performance plate guide. It's a very nice cheat sheet for helping build between meal snacks. This is not pre-workout snack. That is different. This is the bedtime snack or the mid-morning snack or the afternoon snack where it's nowhere near gymnastics. We want your snacks to be balanced. Tell me in the chat if you guys are at school or you're at home and you reach for a snack, what do you grab? What is your go-to, gymnasts or parents? What do you grab when you want a snack? What kind of food? Someone said not balanced. I know. Most of us, it's like a handful of cereal or maybe some nuts or maybe some goldfish, or your gymnast wants a packet of fruit snacks, right? So we want to balance it out. This is not just important for gymnasts, but this is important normal people nutrition. If we need a snack, we want to pair carbs, so fruits or grains, with a fat or protein, because fat and protein are going to help us stay full. And they're also going to help balance the carbs to give us more steady energy. And this is not just gymnast important stuff, but this is all normal, healthy people stuff. So instead of just goldfish, which is a carb, could we add some cheese to it? Could we add a few nuts to it? Could we add a yogurt to it? Like, what could we add to that to make it more balanced? We could have cheese and crackers. We could have apples and peanut butter. We could have a trail mix that has nuts and dried fruit and maybe some chocolate. If you make something like a little protein energy bite, I'd love to share my recipe for that on Instagram. I can drop it in the Facebook group if you want. It's really simple. You've probably made it. It's like oats, peanut butter, honey, chia seeds, protein powder. That's kind of a mixed snack already. You've got carbs in the oats and the honey. You've got fat in the chia seeds and the peanut butter. And so it's kind of nice, hits a couple food groups. This cheat sheet is great. It lists carb ideas and then protein or fat ideas. So pick at least one from each column when you're trying to create a mid-morning snack. When it comes to school and things that are packable, these are nice carb options. Here are some fat ideas. Here are some protein and fat ideas. Fruit is always fair game. It's a great carb to bring. Pair it with some nuts, pair it with a cheese stick, pair it with a hard-boiled egg or something. A lot of gymnasts like granola bars. So you could do a regular one, or you could do like one of these Kodiak bars that have a little bit of protein in it. Probably still pair it with something else. You could do tortilla chips and guacamole. You could do pita chips and hummus. You could do, popcorn paired with some mixed nuts. Lots of different ideas for packable snacks. This is what I was talking about. Some snacks are already pretty balanced. And I know a lot of you are very busy on the go. So things like the protein energy bites or Kind bars, Lara bars, Fuel for Fire pouches, peanut butter pretzels, little hummus or guacamole cups, like those have carbs and protein and fat. So that could be a nice way to hit a couple food groups without having to pack 18 million things. If you have a snacker, that could mean a couple things, right? Sometimes gymnasts don't like to eat meals. They just want a snack. Or maybe you have a gymnast that all she wants are chips and cookies and candy, like those kinds of snacks. Usually when this is the situation, we just need more food at meals because we're just never truly getting full. And so we want your gymnast to be able to go a couple hours after a meal, but the only way they can do that is if they've had enough food. It's definitely your job to set boundaries as a parent of appropriate meal and snack times. And if you feel like your gymnast always wants the fun foods, which we'll talk about next week, I really encourage you to get ahead of it and just include them with the meals and snacks. So pack their favorite chips at lunch, include a cookie with dinner. Doesn't have to be all day, every day, but that also can kind of cut down on the endless wanting, asking for 18 million things if we can incorporate it into what we're already doing sometimes, which we'll talk more next week. Lots of nuance there that I want to talk with just parents only. All right, so lots of resources to look over: performance plate guide, breakfast guide, lunch guide, snack guide. We have a lot in there for you. We are going to start some pop-up plate coaching in the Facebook group later this week. You do not have to do this if you don't want to. You can definitely do this with your dietitian if you're working one-on-one. But parents really enjoy this. One of the feedback items that I get about the program is parents love seeing other parents' plates or gymnast plates just because it gives them different ideas. And it also helps you to have examples of, they thought that this plate was moderate, but it really was actually high, or they thought it was a high intensity plate, but it actually needed some more. I will put very specific instructions in Facebook. There will be one post per meal. We'll do one meal per week. So starting later this week, we'll do breakfast. If you do not follow the instructions, we will not answer your plate. So make sure you read everything, but it's very simple. You take a picture of their plate, and then when you post it in the comments of that plate post, you'll tell me what kind of plate it is. So moderate, high intensity. You'll tell me what foods are there and what food groups they are. And then you can add anything of like, I couldn't get her to eat it, or she didn't like it, or we loved it, or is this enough? I'm not sure. And then us dietitians, we will go in there and give you some feedback of like, hey, looks great. Yep, that's a moderate intensity plate. Or like, oh, okay, you were aiming for a high, but she only ate half of it. Yeah, it definitely needs more of the carbs. Okay, how can we troubleshoot there? So we'll do that for the next couple weeks. We'll do like breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, pre-workout snack. One plate per week per person to start, just because it can get really crazy. And again, this is something you can do with your dietitian, food journaling. So not a substitute for one-on-one support, but it is a really fun aspect of the community. And again, people just like to see other people's samples. All right, so you have some homework. You need to start thinking about the performance plates and the food groups. If you feel overwhelmed by the plates, I just want you to start with the food groups. So when you and your gymnast are making breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or you're packing it, I want you to ask yourself, is there protein? Is there carbs? Is there fat? Is there color? Can I add some calcium? That's literally what my level 10 and elite gymnasts do. So no one is too good for it. Once you have the food groups nailed down and your gymnast kind of has that shared language with you, then we can work on kind of adjusting portions based on what they need, depending on growth, development, training hours, stuff like that. Our next session is just for parents. We will be talking about troubleshooting, picky eating, sugar, how to know if they're eating enough. It's one thing to talk about carbs, protein, and fat. It's a whole other thing to apply that knowledge and to work with a human, right? It's not the same as feeding a dog where you can just give them what you give them and they can whine anyways and they're not getting any more, depending how much of a sucker you are, right? Feeding another human is a hard thing. So we will talk about that next session. We do have a little bit of time. I mean, we're 7 minutes over. So if you need to go, please go. But one of my favorite things to do is put us all on the screen and very quickly, like 30-second introduction, tell me your name, your gymnast name, where you are, what gym you're at, and what level they are. So three-ish, 4 questions. You do not have to do it. If you put your video on, I'm going to assume you want to participate. So if you have your video off, I'm going to guess you don't want to talk unless you're like driving and it wouldn't be safe. So I'm just going to go in the order of who's on my screen. And what's really cool about the program is, some of you are level 6s, some of you are level 9s or 10s. You're going to see each other. And, you might know gymnasts in your region, but it's really fun to connect with gymnasts all across the US because one day you might be at a camp together or you might be at nationals together. 4 of my gymnasts from Region 1 were all at nationals this year for level 10, and it was so precious. Like, we all took a cute picture together and they had their pink leotards. I belong in Region 1. And it was so fun because I, started working with all of them at various points in the last couple of years. Some of them I worked with 3 years ago, some of them more recently. And so it's really fun to be able to connect through something outside of your gym, outside of your level. All right, Ashley, I've got you first, which I know you're driving, so feel free to look at the road, but tell us your name, your gymnast, the levels they are, and where you're from.
Okay, hi, I'm Ashley, and I am driving. My level 7 gymnast home from practice right now. My level 9 gymnast is at home where I started the call with her. We're in Oklahoma City at Dynamo Gymnastics. Was that all the question?
Yeah, okay. That's it. You nailed it.
Thank you.
I'm from Oklahoma, so Ashley and I connected. Yay! And yeah, I'm so glad that you guys are here. All right, I have iPhone next on my screen. I think there's only one of you. I know that's not your name. That's just what your Zoom says. Oh, I think you're muted. There you go.
I didn't even know it would say iPhone. Sorry.
You're good.
I'm Lauren. I am in the car, but not driving. My daughter is actually back there asleep after practice. We're on a road trip. The gymnast is Elle. She's a level 7. We are in Virginia at Novex Gymnastics for military. So this is her 3rd gym that we have been at in the last
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, join the club.
So, yeah.
Join the club. Yeah. Yep. I know. I feel like we've all got connections. Oklahoma, military life. We're so glad you're here. So glad you're here. All right, Nadia, I've got you next on my screen, which I saw you earlier. I think you're still there.
Hi, I'm Lily, and this is Nadia. We can't see what you're seeing, so hopefully you can see our faces, and we don't know what we're looking like. But anyways,
okay.
Nadia's a level 9. Hopefully, she might be a level 10 this season. Hopefully, we're not sure. We're from Boca Raton, Florida, American Twisters.
Love it. Yay. I'm so glad you guys are here. Amanda, I've got you next on my screen. Amanda, iPhone 2.
Hi, I'm Amanda. That's Nora. She's just having her post-gymnastic snack. She is
Beautiful.
a level 6. We're in Pennsylvania, and she just started level 6, tested out a level 5 2 weekends ago. So training a new level here, and she goes to Stallone Gymnastics.
Yay! So glad you're here. Caitlin and Jennifer, Orlando.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen. My daughter is here. She's Caitlin. She's off from practice tonight. We live in Fort Mill, South Carolina, which is just outside of Charlotte, and she's currently training level 8.
Yay. I love it. So glad you're here. Emma and Siba, I have you next.
Yes. My name is Jira. I am a mom of 2 gymnasts. One is Emma, level 7 in Twin City Twisters. And then the other one is Seba. He's also a gymnast, level 4 in mini hops.
Yeah. Yay. Yay. I'm so glad you're here. We've had several Twin City Twisters gymnasts across the year. So I'm so glad that you're here.
I'm happy to be here to learn more about nutrition.
Yay. Is it Nadia? Is that how I say it?
Almost, Nadia.
Nadia, okay.
Nadia, yes.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna get it now.
Everyone gets it wrong the first few times.
Okay, I'm gonna remember it.
Well, it's so I'm the mom of Farah and Sophia, who are identical twins in level 9. We're in Toronto area in Canada, and we are they're training at Oakville Gymnastics Club. I'm currently making their lunch right now for tomorrow. I hope I pass the test. Tuna sandwich. Right. We're starting with tuna sandwich.
I love it. Good protein. Yeah. There's some carbs. Yay.
There we go. And yes, we're excited. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, so glad you're here. So glad you're here. Okay, Sarah iPhone, I have you next. Sometimes it's tricky to
There you
unmute.
go. Sorry.
There we go.
I was trying to find that button. I'm so used to Teams. I'm Sarah. I have a level 8 gymnast. I'm in Colorado and work incline gymnastics.
Yay! Yes, you know the Smiths. I'm so glad you're here.
They're on the same team. So yeah, little
Oh,
buddies.
yay. Yay. So happy you're here.
Thanks.
Lindsay, I have you next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. My daughter is Caroline, and she's a level 6 at Brandy Johnson's in Orlando, Florida.
Awesome.
And I
And
had
you
to
were a
give a shout
gymnast?
out quick.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was a gymnast. I was a level 10 and a college gymnast. And I want to give a shout out to Amanda in Pennsylvania. Your coaches, Mr. A, Mr. Marty, Mr. A, and Miss Gina were my coaches back when they coached at Berks. Like I'm 40 now, so this is a long time ago. But so exciting to see people from Stallone because they had opened that gym up about 5-7 years ago, and they're doing amazing. So it's good to see people from there.
I love it.
Yeah, I great, Gina.
Oh, awesome.
Small world. See, we all have some concentric circles.
Yeah.
I see Kinley's mom. Oh, thinking about it.
Hey, did that work?
Yep, you're good.
Hey, yes, I'm Kinley's mom. She's training level 10. She missed an entire season. She had UCL repair. She's 16 years old and she trains in Charleston, South Carolina at the Gymnastics Academy of Charleston. And prior
Yay!
to that, she trained forever at Aiken Gymnastics.
Awesome. So glad you're here. So glad you're here. Laura, I've got you on my screen next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura. My gymnast is Lexi. She is a level 5 gymnast. We're in New Jersey at Go for the Gold. I also have a 13-year-old who's a dancer, so I'm hoping to be able to take a lot of these strategies and use them for her as well.
100%. If you guys have other athletes, all of this translates. Obviously, different training schedule, different hours, different intensities. But yes, that's the beauty of this is you do not need to cook 18 million different meals. Liz, I know y'all are driving. Oh, you're home. Oh, hold on. I think you're muted.
I am muted. Yes, we just got back. So my name's Liz. My daughter's name is Lexi as well. We are in Utah. My daughter's training level 9 and she goes to Momentum in Salt Lake.
Yay. So glad you're here.
Yeah.
Okay, who am I missing? Let's see. Elise, I've got you on my screen.
Is it working? Sorry, I'm on my husband's laptop and I don't know how to use it.
You're good.
I'm Elise. My gymnast is Madeline. She is a level 6 and we're outside of Boston at Metro South Gymnastics.
Awesome. Yay. So glad you're here. Tamara, I have you next. Or Tamara. Tamara, please correct me.
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay. My name's Tamara.
Tamara. I was
Yes.
completely off. Okay, Tamara.
Okay. Okay. Everybody always does that. But my gymnast name is Journey, and she is training to be a level 8, although she's been out of the gym since August with an OCD injury. So we're trying to get back in and start at least conditioning. But she's able to still play volleyball right now. So the school is keeping her pretty active until we get back there. And we're at Unique Sports Academy in Waldorf, Maryland. We drive about 30 minutes to get there.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here. So glad you're here. And I know you're going to learn so much that will benefit her in the gym and her comeback outside the gym. So excited. Okay, who am I missing? Allie, I think you're on my screen. I've got Allie, I've got Cindy, Tristan, and Avani. I think I've hit everyone else. Oh, Cindy said Avani, level 4, Ohio, powerhouse. Love it. Chandler was level 9, but had to go make dinner. That's okay too. Okay, who am I missing? Allie, you can unmute yourself if you want, or you can just type in the chat, which I think you did earlier. And then Tristan. Let's see. They're jumping. Oh, there's Tristan. You're on my screen.
Yes. Hi, I'm Tristan. This is Tinsley. She is a level 7 in Arkansas at Hopes and Dreams.
Oh, yay. I love it. We have lots of friends there. I actually went to school at U of A in Fayetteville, so very familiar with the area. I love it. Awesome. Okay. If anyone else wants to introduce themselves, you are free to do so. Otherwise, it's late. It's definitely dinner time, bedtime. Allie, level 6 in Burke, Virginia. Amazing. All right. Well, that's it. That's all I got. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat. I think I answered the one question earlier. Y'all crushed it with the plates. I can't wait to see what you do. And this is all a learning process. I don't expect you to have this out of the gate. And it's hard, you know, it doesn't all fit into a nice little box sometimes. So we're just going to try to do the best we can. Nutrition is about the averages. And if your kid's under fueled, the most important thing is just getting enough in them. And then we'll worry about everything else. So with that, let me know what you need. I'll see you in the Facebook group. We will all see you in your sessions, in the live program sessions. And then if your gymnast couldn't make it tonight, or they want to see me in the gymnast Q&A, which will give them a little bit more hands-on practice of food groups and plates, definitely mark your calendar for 4 o'clock Mountain Time, 6 o'clock this Sunday. We don't normally have stuff like twice in the same week. It's just the way that it fell for this month, because this month has been absolutely crazy. So with that, great to see you. Great to meet you. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.